Life gets hard sometimes, so grab your weighted blanket and let's talk about it.
Okay. Are we recording?
Oh yeah, we're recording.
Oh, sweet. It works.
It does work. Maybe move back a little bit because your voice is going in the yellow. Yes.
Hello.
There you go.
Cool. We'll fix it in post. It's great.
I love that you know how to fix it in post.
So you can fix surprisingly little in post, but that's another conversation. Hello, it's Weighted Blanket Happy Hour.
That was Jackie.
And that was Julia. And we're in person and it's weird.
It is actually very weird. It's almost like when we did that live on Instagram and it was like, wait, how do we host?
How do I human?
It was like we were in the back of our friend's car and it was like, wait, I'm talking to you in person, not over Zoom or the phone. I don't do I look you in the eyes? Am I looking too long?
I know, it's weird. Fucking y'all, if y'all have listened to episodes, you know that we have literally never recorded in the same room. But we are doing this intro in the same room because we tried to do it before and the audio got messed up. So we're doing it again.
Long story short, my boyfriend is a hero and it just happened to work out.
We appreciate him.
Yes, I appreciate him very much.
Yeah.
For more than just this, obviously. But
God.
yeah, so how's your week been since that failed recording?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I have talked on the podcast about how I spent like a month and a half trying to get Adderall, and then I got on Adderall and it didn't do anything.
It's the worst.
And I was like the ultimate freaking painful irony. And then to add insult to injury, like while I was on it, I was like, oh, cool, I can pay attention. And I'm just paying attention to how depressed I am.
Oh no, that's a spiral. That's a spiral.
And I just was like, and my therapist like literally like firmly was like, it's time for antidepressants.
Yep.
So that started as of today, and I feel very weird because we're going to a party after this and I won't be able to have a drink.
Yeah. Do you want to share with everyone what you're drinking right now?
I'm drinking water out of my water bottle eating watermelon.
What's your poison of choice? What antidepressant are you on?
Oh, I thought you
I don't know. I was trying to make it cute and I just didn't.
My drink of choice is White Claw. No.
So basic.
I just started Wellbutrin.
Okay, yeah.
And, like, you're not supposed to drink alcohol on it, and you're not really supposed to have caffeine on it. And I'm like, what the dick am I supposed to do with my life then? Because, like, those are my two favorite things. But also, it's the one that they just describe. It's the one that they prescribe to depressed ADHD patients.
Interesting.
Because it's like a second line treatment for ADHD, and also it's an antidepressant. It's not an SSRI or an SNRI. It's an NDRI, which is norepinephrine, dopamine, reputake. What? How do you say that word?
I don't know.
Inhibitor.
I studied musical theater. Why would I know?
Same. Oh my god.
Like you had me at like all the abbreviations. So all right. So today's day one for you.
Today's
so you
day
started
one.
taking it.
And like I probably could have a White Claw at this party, and I might.
You should.
Like,
yeah. You deserve it.
Yeah, because it's like you can drink a little, but like if you get drunk, it can cause seizures.
Yeah. That's probably not best. I mean, yeah, I like to play that game. I'm on Zoloft, so I mean, like,
Is it the same thing?
You know, I just have an iron liver.
Good for you.
And I have the gift of hardly any hangovers. So I was like, let's see what happens. And so far, you know, like I survived our lake trip. I survived my friend's wedding. So I feel pretty good. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a mental health expert, so like don't do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. I was gonna express to the audience, Julia is magic or like has like dwarf blood or something. Some iron runs
Viking
within her veins.
Just a bunch of Vikings.
Because we were at this fucking Indiana lake house and we all had like a friggin' like 6-pack of beers worth each. We were like just having a girls trip, fucking drinking.
And by 6-pack, she means wine.
Yeah. 6-pack of actual wine bottles. Yeah. And we all woke up the next morning and shuffled out, and Julie's like, good morning, are we making pancakes? Like,
yep.
Would you guys like coffee? Like,
yep.
I was just like, how?
It's magic. It literally is magic. I am just going, like, I'm 31, so I'm just going to ride this gravy train as long as I can, because it's all downhill from here.
That's never been true for me in my life. I have gotten, like, the hangovers from hell since I was 19 it's horrifying. Like, I have 2 glasses of wine and I get a hangover.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So I don't know if that makes me more seizure prone. I have no idea.
Let's not test it. Let's not test it.
I've never had a seizure and I don't want to start.
No, I had a friend. She was like, I don't know what medication she was on, but she was my college roommate, and she went on meds, and she just like, we went to like one theater party, and first of all, like, if anyone out there knows, like, ain't no party like a theater party. Like,
ain't no party as trashy or as sexually charged.
Fraternities come to the theater parties to get weird. And she just was like out. Like,
no.
She just, it was almost like someone like did something to her drink. Like, that, it had that kind of effect on her. Like, she just she was like almost passing out. But again, like, you know, like, we were 19, so we didn't have much of a, you know, tolerance for alcohol, and she's inexperienced. And then, you know, when you have mental health issues, challenges, like, that can also affect it too. So you just, you just got to do what's good for your body. And apparently drinking 2 bottles of wine is fine for my body. So that's what I'm saying. I kid. I half kid.
I've never been able to do that in my life, I swear. The only time I did not get rip-roaring hungover from drinking a bottle of wine was when I didn't steal it, but someone had abandoned a bottle of Veuve Clicquot.
Well, if it's Veuve Clicquot, like, you have to drink it.
And I took it home and I drank it with strawberries and I drank the whole thing.
Oh, that's good.
But it's like the fancy shit, so it didn't make me hungover.
Well, there you go. You just need a better palate. This is now this is now a wine drinking podcast. So anyway, we are very excited for today's guest, Natasha Sattler, author of Shit Adults Never Taught Us. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, we are so excited. So we're going to cut this a little bit short, and like, do your thing, like, review, subscribe, rate, all of the things, show us some love, follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Post us to, if you really like us, post us to your social medias and be like, hey, I like these ladies. They're cool and they talk candidly and laugh a little too much about mental health.
Yes.
I'm depressed, bursts out laughing. That's been my month, yo.
I think it's been a lot of people's pandemic in general.
For real. I just didn't come to terms with it until we were, like, coming out of the pandemic.
No, it's true. It's true. It's like, wait, there's a new normal, but, like, I'm so cozy in my depression.
We could save that because I could talk for an hour about it.
Cozy, we need someone to make that shirt. Cozy in my depression. But before we do that, you know what we have to do, Jackie?
Oh my God, what do we have to do?
Ads.
Amazing.
So Natasha, just to make sure that I'm saying your name correctly, it's Natasha Sattler?
Yes. Cool.
Natasha Sattler, author of Shit Adults Never Taught Us. Now officially, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, and Google Play Books. We are so excited to have you join us today, Natasha.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Jackie and I have both read it, and we are just like, oh my God, why? Why, if only someone gave this to me 10 years ago when I graduated from college. Like, seriously.
Or even in high school. I was reading stuff in, like, the financial sections that you wrote that I was like, wait a minute, I can do that?
Yes. Think about all the money we wasted on textbooks of stuff we never learned. And this is like a $16 book that would have saved so much headaches and just all the stuff that I feel like we all got lost in the endless loop of Google pages or things we were too afraid to ask friends and family and all of that. Like, if somebody had just handed us a manual instead of a diploma, probably would have gone a little smoother. All I would say is I wrote it because I think these topics are important, but they're also super boring and nobody wants to talk about them. Yeah. So I wrote them in a funny way of like, here are all the areas that I failed. Here's everything that I messed up that I wish I had known. I didn't know how to handle this. So I wrote it in a book in a funny way. And I hope you enjoy it because there's not enough out there. And that is how we learn it. We end up sitting in a restaurant talking to a random person and we get information. Or if you guys are around the same age I am, the only thing you heard about 401ks and investing was after the recession when everybody's money completely disappeared. And I had never heard of a 401k until I heard my dad talk about how all of his money is gone. And I was like, wait, what? Why on earth would I do that? And now, like, nobody told me 10 years later it rebounded and it's better and it's fine. but nobody talked to me about it. And I got my first job, or my second job. I guess they didn't even offer it at my first job, but my second job, I got one. And I was like, why would I put money in that thing? It's just going to disappear. And like, when you're making $30,000, $31,000 a year, whatever it was, my first salary, and they're like, do you want to put away 5% of your money? You're like, why on earth would I do that?
Yeah.
5% of my money is like all of my groceries or car insurance or the things that I never had to pay for before. Why would I just give this fund that I'm not even going to get to access until I retire? I need it now. And nobody told me why that was important. So I broke it down. And I said, this is for the wrinkly version of you and why that person deserves some money.
The wrinkly version. I love that. I loved how straightforward it was, especially for, especially in the financial section, because I was reading, I have ADHD, so I have a super short attention span and have no patience for anything granule. So I was just...
Me too!
Do you also...
Welcome to the club.
Yes.
I mean, I got that strong ADD where I don't think I've ever listened to a complete song.
Oh my god. Friend, sibling in ADD land. Like, so, but that makes so much sense though, because it was literally like, this is a 401k. This is what credit protection is. Like, just in the shortest, most concise possible way possible. And I was just like, yes, thank you. Finally. And I kept reading things thinking like, I didn't know that was even a thing. Or if I did, someone explained it to me in a way that I could not understand.
Yeah, and that's what happened, is a lot of us got the information, but it was so boring or so mind-numbingly irrelevant to us that we just ignored it. And like you said, like if you're like me and you have serious ADD, you click through probably 10 to 15 links on Google when you're looking up something. And all of them say something wildly different, or all of them are just boring pages of paragraphs. And I want things in fast bullet points. There's 98 chapters in here. All of them are 3 pages or less. I think there's 1 or 2 that are like 4 pages. And at the end of half the chapters, there's a checklist. So it's like, even if you read it and you didn't really absorb those 3 pages, fine. I don't care. There's a little checklist at the bottom. Just check off the things, because ADD people like myself and you and probably millions and millions of other people aren't able to read a whole book on one topic. And even if you did, like my problem with the self-help generation or the self-help books out there, like we just get more and more of them every day. And they're, okay, you've read this whole book. People think when they put it down, great, I've done it. And it's like, no, you put it down. Now you got to go do the stuff in the book. And if you didn't absorb the information in a way that's like actionable, in a way that you can go out and actually do it, then it's just another book you read. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be like, Google is overwhelming. The internet is overwhelming. And everything else is underwhelming. And I wanted something in the middle where I was like, I don't want it to be another blog that's just going to get lost in the ether, but I also don't want it to be one long book that is focused on boring stuff that like can't hold anyone's attention. So I wrote it as like just 98 conversations I wish I had had with friends. And these are the conversations, my one-sided version of that conversation. And now anybody that reads it gets to be the other side of that friend conversation.
You are speaking to my soul right now.
Yeah. We're going to have you come on every week, Natasha.
My pleasure. Let's do this.
And I so appreciate that, like from like a feminist standpoint, like putting financials first, because like this is all in like learning about investing is new to me right now. Like I'm 31 years old, just learning now about like investing and like you were talking about like high yield savings accounts. First of all, why did no one ever tell me this? But also, why did I never seek this out? Because I never assumed that as a woman, I was going to be successful and make enough money. Like literally, I remember as a kid, my parents telling me that I should just aim to marry rich and that will solve my problems. And now as an adult, I make my own money. I pay my own bills. I pay my own rent. But also like I want to plan for the future. I want to make smart financial choices. And learning information like this from sources like your book or podcasts where they lay it out, I'm realizing this is not hard. I was just taught in a boring way, and a part of me, like, and Yep, this is our feminist rant of the episode.
Do it. We have to have one. We got to fill a quota.
Yeah, we got to have one.
I'll jump in because I can tell you right now why that was.
Tell us.
Yeah, like the fucking patriarchy wants us to be bored so we don't look into it and we don't get better.
I would bet if I just said the words investing, high yield savings account, 401ks, IRAs, I assume you're picturing a dude in a suit on Wall Street. And girls in their 20s, unless you're fantasizing about them, they don't want to picture a dude in a suit on Wall Street. Like, that isn't like a fun topic. And it sounds like it's for them. It sounds like it's their thing. And like, why would I care about something that like a hedge fund manager has to care about? And I write about like for investing, for example, the fancy investing is for those guys. There's also super unfancy investment. And that's the easy kind that you can do. Like we all started hearing about Robinhood because of GameStop and AMC and like short selling. And all of my friends were like, what is that? And I'm like, well, we're not going to dig into short selling right away, but I do dig into like, yeah, I'm not. And just real fast little my own personal rant. I did get involved in that, but mainly because it was like a big fuck you to everybody that was taking away our nostalgia companies. Like if you're gonna bet against AMC and GameStop and all of those companies failing, that was my childhood. You're betting against a 90 kid's childhood. Like, no. No.
I love it.
I'm taking your money away. But Robinhood, nobody told me like, oh, I could just put $100 into this app, which is what I did a few years ago. Maybe back in 2015, I got a little like unexpected money and I just put it into this app and it's corporate gambling. It's very regulated, risky, but there's ways to do it that aren't super risky. And I give you practical advice in the book of like, don't check it every day. It doesn't have to be this huge weight of a thing. Like we all have anxiety. We don't have to think about it and check it every day. Because if you see it goes up $14 one day and down $18 the next and up $7 the next and down $21 the next, like you are going to drive yourself insane. There's no reason to check something that much. It's like checking your Instagram notifications. It's going to drive you crazy.
I'm guilty of that practice in so many ways.
With financials or with Instagram?
I do it with Instagram. I do it with like our podcast stats. I did it when I was on dating apps. I do it with my email when I'm applying for jobs. Like it's just, it drives me crazy.
It's because it's all the same part of our brain. Like the notification and the instant gratification that our generation is used to is coming from, like I said, a text message or a notification sound triggers the same part of your brain as a slot machine sound going off. And you are thinking, I won. I got this thing that I've wanted. And when you start getting that more and more, and then it slowly disappears, you get a little depressed. You get a little upset that you're not getting this gratification that you became used to. Or like if you're like me, like you post a video and it gets thousands of views, then you post another video and you think it's just as good and it gets 200. And you're like, what did I do wrong? And you didn't do anything wrong. The algorithm did something wrong. The time of day, there's so many factors that are out of your control, and it's the same for investing. It's the same for financials. Like I can invest in an app I can invest in a company and just put like $20 in there and it can go up to 40. And then I invest in a very similar company and it drops by 50%. And I'm like, oh no, I made a terrible decision. I didn't make a terrible decision. Something changed that was out of my control. And I try and break that down a little bit in the book, but I think baby steps in investing is the fastest way to get somewhere, because diving full into that hedge fund manager mentality is not going to get you anywhere, and it's going to be overwhelming. So you won't do it. Do it in like the super unfancy baby step kind of way.
Oh my God, I love everything about this mentality. I want to hear, was there like is there a story behind like the specific moment where you were like, I need to fucking write a book about this?
There kind of was. I was doing the happy hour Zoom thing that we were all doing. And at the beginning of the pandemic, like it felt like I was doing Zooms with friends that are close or friends that live far away that I don't talk to very often. And that was really fun because it was like, hey guys, what's up? What are you doing? How's your life? And then after a few weeks, it became nothing. Nothing was up. Literally nothing is going on. My life is exactly the same. So then we start talking about the most minute details of our life. And it was about a year ago. So it was like, how do I do taxes when I can't go anywhere and I have to sit alone in my apartment and do them by myself? I'm in a breakup. How do I do a breakup if I can't go to a bar and drink with friends? How do I do anxiety, depression, mental health management if I can't go to the doctor or I can't go see a therapist? It became like a very strong I don't know the right word right here, but like became a very strong like flashing light of, oh my God, there's so much we don't know how to handle on our own because we've always just done things out in the world. And when we're sitting alone and there's no external people, no external circumstances, nothing out there telling us what to do, and we're just by ourselves, what comes up? And what comes up is we didn't learn a lot of stuff. So after the conversations I was having with friends and neighbors and, random acquaintances that I was just talking to because I was bored, I was like, I got to start to write some of this down. And it wasn't a book at the beginning, but it slowly and quickly evolved into a book that I wrote in 6 weeks.
That is so. Is that ADD hyperfocus right there?
It's ADD hyperfocus where like every day is a little bit different. So I was writing a chapter and then that chapter would spawn another chapter and then that chapter would spawn another chapter. Then the next day I would be in a different mood and I would be like, oh, wait, I'd go back and reread a chapter in a totally different mindset. And I'd be like, yeah, but now I have to talk about this. And it's basically the most ADD style of writing.
Sounds about right.
I would write a chapter and then I'd be like, oh, wait, what about this shiny object? Oh, wait, this shiny object. And yeah, I wrote 98 shiny object chapters.
That's so great. I love that.
Hold on, let me pause really quick. My cat's trying to get in here.
All good.
Hi. Would you like to come make an appearance?
Yeah, guest star.
I know. I'm gonna have to steal.
Oh my God! Every week they think it's their podcast. I swear to God.
Bingley. Yeah, no. Your cat started doing shit at the same time that mine did. Bingley, you can't do that. I'm recording. Hold on.
I swear our cats like have their own small cell phones and are like, let's fuck shit up right now.
It's nice that they coordinate though.
Is it though?
It's so nice that they coordinate everything.
You have to play over there, buddy. Go play in the shoes. No. Okay, it's fine.
All right, now we can't cut this.
Play in the shoes. That's my dog's dream. And I have a dog that I'm pretty sure wanted to be a cat. Like, doesn't know he's not a cat. He's obsessed with receipts. Like, he'll go into the trash and take out everything just to get to a receipt. And then I lived off Melrose for a long time, and we would walk down Melrose at like night, and he would always try and go into shoe stores. And I don't know what it is, but I'm like, it's like he wants to be on Sex and the City. Like, he just tries to go into every shoe store that we pass. Or like, even if they're closed, he'll like look in the window, and I'm like, what are you looking at? You don't wear shoes.
Oh my God, we're keeping all of this. Anyway.
But I love the origin story of this book, and so much of what you were just talking about resonates with how my pandemic life was going too. Yeah, now you want to come in? Yeah,
we cannot get it together.
Can't get back there.
Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi to our guest.
Hi.
This is Grayson. This is Grayson. Yeah.
Grayson, is your mom teaching you lots of things, or do you need a book to know about them?
There you go.
It's going to be shit adults never taught cats.
Yeah. Because I mean, I was fortunate enough to, have parents who were good resources even after college, but the pandemic could not have prepared me for all of the emotional stuff, like a breakup and having to move twice and having to learn that I had to validate myself and couldn't rely on groups of friends and my hobbies and my side hustles to define my life. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it was such, I mean, thank God I go to therapy. So I have a therapist who's a great sounding board, and I have friends who also are doing the work themselves. But it was such a moment of like, how can I be 30 years old and not know how to bounce back after this? And I love that you have a chapter about starting over, because in the pandemic, when my ex-boyfriend and I broke up and we were living together and I had to find a new place, and I also decided I didn't want to do casting or theater anymore, and it was such a quarter life crisis of these things that used to define me aren't making me happy anymore. I don't understand how that worked, because I did all this work to get this far and I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And just having this moment of realization that this is not how I become happy.
Right.
And I love how your book touches on that, about how you can't, and I love this other chapter you have too, about how like relationships aren't about finding the perfect person, or like, and I just
Yeah.
like really like what I tell like my friends who are dating and are struggling is that you got to stop finding someone to complete you.
There is no perfect person, and nobody's perfect, including ourselves. But there's so much there from what you just said. Like, first of all, yes, I strongly resonate with the feeling of starting over. Like, you're no longer in a career that you want to be in. You're in a relationship that you no longer want to be in. You're in a house that you now have to move. But none of that is starting over. You are not going to enter the world or your next relationship from scratch. You now have a bunch of information from previous relationships that you will take and grow from, and now enter a better relationship. You are not starting over with your career. You cannot take away any of the experience that you learned from your career. So just because you're leaving casting and you go and you want to work at a bank, cool. You at least know how to deal with people, and you know customer service and client relations because you did that in casting. If you move, it's not like you have to start from an empty apartment. You have stuff. You know how to put it together because you put it together before. Like, nothing is starting over. You've done it all before. You can do it all again. People seem to think that, like, I use the baseball analogy, but people seem to think when they start over that they're going back to the dugout. You're not. You're starting on first base at worst. Like, there is nothing that is going to prepare you for life. Life is going to change. There's always going to be shifts. There's always going to be things you didn't see coming. But knowing that you have a whole life that led you to this point, you have all the experiences that got you here, nobody can ever take that from you. You aren't starting over. You're just starting fresh.
That's such a lovely sentiment. And also it sounds like something that my therapist would say to me.
I love that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it is so true. And, you know, what kept me in that bad relationship, what kept me in that shitty living situation or the shitty jobs was the fear of starting over. And then, you know, life happens, like the job I have, like the restaurant falls apart and they go out of business, and something happens in the relationship that's just non-negotiable, and I have to get out, and leases end and I have to move somewhere else. And the thing that I thought was going to be the hardest or the worst thing that ever happened to me ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's always what happens, because we always fear the unknown. Like, so much of anxiety, so much of the source of anxiety is fearing the unknown. Because you're like, okay, this is a shitty relationship, but I know this shitty relationship. I am fine with what I know in front of me. Like, I can make this better. But the unknown of, well, what would it be like if I wasn't in a relationship? What would it be like if I tried a different job? And I don't know, I could be unemployed for a few months, or I could change careers, change fields. And I don't know what that looks like. There's so much that we just fear because we don't know what it looks like, that we just stay in shitty situations. And that's not fun. That's not a cozy little corner to just rest ourselves in. It's really uncomfortable. So it takes the courage, and it takes trusting yourself and trusting that you're capable of change to get out of that and to try and just throw yourself into the unknown. You're going to be fine. The unknown is where you were at some point before you got into the relationship, before you got into that house, before you got into that job. So throw yourself back into the unknown and find out what else is out there for you.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I need therapy, because I am so good at concealing my own feelings from myself. Like, I could take a piece of shit and convince myself that it is a goddamn gem.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Do you,
right?
you do what I do, where you just intellectualize it? Like, you just I will think my way around every feeling, where I will just talk myself into things because intellectually it makes sense. This job is better money, better location, better company. I will talk myself away from the gut feeling that I don't want that job. Because I'll look at it and be like, no, that's a fantastic, on paper, it's great. Same with relationships, right? Like you look at a person on paper and you're like, oh my God, this person has the best job, best family life, very stable, very, you know, nice and kind. And I am so bored. I am so not attracted to that person. I am so not enthused or passionate about that relationship. I will talk myself into it, and then I'll be like, yeah, but I can see every date, every conversation we're ever going to have. Like, there's no excitement in this relationship. I will push those feelings aside because intellectually, this is the right choice for me. And once you just stop talking yourself out of it, you just listen to the feelings, you get to a better place. You just surrender to whatever you actually want. Your gut is telling you. Your brain's just like, gut, go away. No spot for you here.
Yeah. I think there's for me, my experience with anxiety, I have a lot of fear or stigma of those negative emotions like anxiety, anger, frustration. And yeah, it's so easy for me just to justify, you know, or like think around it, then admit that I'm feeling sad or bored or hopeless or lost, and just cover it up with toxic positivity.
Yeah, I do that too. I don't like feeling anger. So
anger is hard.
Instead of anger, I just spin it into positivity. And it's really just a very fear-based, anger-based positivity that nobody wants to be around.
Yeah, so but dangerous.
It's just me telling everybody everything's fine. Everything's fine. It doesn't matter. Everything's great.
Yeah. And then I'll be saying that to my therapist, like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. It's going to be okay. And she'll just say to me, what are you feeling right now? And I most of the time I'll just say like, I don't know. Like, I actually don't know. And she'll ask me, where are you feeling it? And I'll say something like, I feel like it's rising. Like it's like heat is rising from my chest into my throat. And she's like, does it feel like anger? And I'm like, yes. Yes, it does.
That's me too, where she's like, where do you feel it? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's like right in my chest and it's like hot and it's sort of tense and tight. And she's like, that's anger. And I'll, even when my therapist or somebody will be like, what are you feeling? I still won't say anger. I'll be like, it's frustration. It's sort of like an angsty or like a disappointment, but like a strong disappointment. And everybody's like, that's anger. And I'm like, no, I don't like feeling angry. That's not what that is.
Right. It's not ladylike to be angry. No,
I can't be angry. Not me. I'm the positive, bubbly person. I'm not allowed to be angry.
Allowed. Oh my God. I was just going to bring that up. That the allowed factor is something that I'm struggling with like a ton right now. Cause I'm constantly like, I like my life's fine. I have no reason to feel like this, blah, 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 blah. And I constantly have the conversation with my therapist about like, don't compare your suffering to others. And I'm like, but people are starving and I have a job. And it's a really difficult mentality to get out of.
Because people have this idea of you. They have this idea of how you're going to be. They come into an interaction with you being like, Jackie is always the most bubbly person ever. And like, I love talking to her. And then you're coming into it from a day where maybe you're just not feeling it. And people's expectations have shifted. And they're like, well, what happened to my bubbly, fun Jackie? Like, you were so outgoing and now you're so quiet. And you're like, I'm just not feeling super bubbly and outgoing right now. Like, that's okay. But people coming towards you saying this isn't what they expected from you is slowly going to tell you that you're not allowed to feel anything other than what they expect. So if people expect you to be super happy and bubbly and you're not, like, you feel like you're disappointing them.
Yeah. That makes me think of something, because like you deal with a lot of like a whole range of topics in this book, and like some of them are more emotional than other and some of them are more difficult. Was there a chapter that was like hard to write? Like, was there one where you kind of like struggled, like, I don't know what is the right thing to say here? Or did it all just sort of like brain dump?
Oh my God, that's like 3 completely different questions in one question.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm gonna answer all of them. So the first one is the entire career and money section was hard to write because I found those topics incredibly boring and I wanted to make them fun and hilarious. And a lot, like Julia said, like I had really supportive parents, and so I was like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying that they weren't informative and supportive. I had great teachers. I'm not trying to make it sound like they weren't informative and supportive. So I had to just reconcile with the fact that just some stuff wasn't taught to us, and that's fine. And it's not anybody's fault. The hard chapters to write where I wanted to take care of what I was writing and not, make sure it's coming out right and make sure I'm saying it right was like the chapters about like everybody's an addict. That chapter I struggled with a lot and I almost cut it from the book because I was like, I feel like this is coming across insensitive or it's coming across wrong, but it's such an important chapter of addictions in all forms are burying emotions you don't want to handle. So if you're scrolling through Instagram for 4 hours and you can't seem to get off despite the fact that you're telling yourself you should be doing other things, if you're binge watching TV, if you're shopping online, if you're texting an ex, for me, it's like coffee. I'm super addicted to coffee, but that's just because I hate mornings. And there are days where I just don't want to deal with the day. And I drink a whole pot of coffee because over-caffeinated people are usually anxious people. And so instead of dealing with anxiety, I just over-caffeinate. And all of these things are just burying emotions. And I was like, I have to write this chapter. But it felt like I wasn't doing it. Was something that I had to take such careful approaches to. And then the hardest chapters to write were the ones where I told very personal stories. I tell a story in there about my battle with an autoimmune disorder and how everybody just wanted me to push it aside and be like, you're fine, nothing's wrong with you. And I was like, no, there's something definitely wrong with me. And I had to make a big deal about it for anybody to give a shit. And I talk about like my own personal dating life and a lot of problems I've had in relationships, things I've done wrong in relationships, the expectations I've put on other people, thinking that they're going to become something that they're not, or not validating myself. Like I'm very vulnerable in these chapters, saying like, these are the things I definitely did wrong. And these are the things that I'm still learning. These are lessons that I thought I would have learned by now. And I'm still learning even after the book is published. Like I will find myself realizing that certain chapters are coming up in different ways and there's lessons in there that I still haven't fully learned. That's part of being an adult. That's part of being a human. I think when I was like in elementary school, I thought 18-year-olds had it together because they got a diploma and they went off to college. And then I was like in high school and I was like, oh, okay, so it's not that. It's got to be like when you graduate college. So like when you're like 21, 22, you can drink, you're a full adult, you can do everything that all adults can do. And then I was in college and I was like, all right, now it's probably like 30. Now I'm 30 and I'm like, when you retire, I bet those people know everything.
Well, and it's this hilarious, like, what do you call it? Not cross correlation. Whatever that graphing term is, I'll think of it in 10 minutes and then burst out with it. But that, contrasting correlation, something like that. It's that thing where like, I'm almost 30, I'm 27, and I actually, in actuality, probably have my shit together like more than I ever did like previously in life, but I feel like I have my shit together less because I'm more aware of my problems and I'm working on them. But being aware of your problems means, oh shit, I'm aware of my problem.
Yeah, because you were so blissfully unaware. People were taking care of things for you. You didn't have problems as a kid. Your parents took care of your problems for you. Exactly. And then when you were like in college and you were starting out, it was like, oh, you're in your early 20s. You're expected to mess up. And then as you get older and older, you're less expected to mess up. There's like a switch that flips. And I don't know what age it is, this, but it's like you're 21, 22, 23, 24. Everybody's like, oh, it's fine. Like you're in your 20s. This is what it's for. It's supposed to be trial and error. And then all of a sudden, like one day you just show up to life and people are like, you don't know that? How do you not know that?
That's so freaky. I think it's right around 25 or 26 because like my entire like early 20s, I like people would be like, you're 24, you're fine, you'll figure it out. But like no one's telling me that anymore. And I'm like, I still don't know what I'm doing. Like help.
Yeah. All of a sudden we just show up and one day it's like we're expected to know everything, but nobody told it to us.
Yes.
So how are we supposed to know it? Because when we're in our early 20s and everybody's like, it's fine, you'll figure it out, you're young. Then all of a sudden they decide we're not young and we're not going to figure it out. But nobody told us the stuff before. They just dismissed us as young and, you know, like a kid. So you don't have to know that. Don't worry about it. It'll all work itself out. Nobody actually gave us the tools during that time to figure it out. So then when we do become in our late 20s and we are sort of still struggling and figuring things out, plus we're learning more about ourselves, we're figuring out who we are, there's all those extra components, then we're like struggling with, okay, I never learned this and now I'm learning about myself and all of this is exploding at once and nobody's here to help me.
Even like college, like just was such the ultimate setup for failure, because here you spend 4 years of your life readjusting to an academic schedule and expectation in a whole different pool of social normatives, partying, drinking, doing drugs, experimenting. And you're able after 4 years to finally like, I've mastered it. I'm a senior and now I have this bachelor's or whatever. And you go out into the real world and it's like bouncing a checkbook and working 2 to 3 jobs. Like, wait a second, I was not prepared for any of this. But feeling like I peaked in college and now I'm failing as an adult. Like, what was all of that for?
I think college is just the most expensive life lesson because we're taught that college is going to prepare us for life. And the lesson in that is that it doesn't. It prepares you for college. And like, it's kind of like how high school, they thought that they were going to prepare you for college and they didn't. They prepared you to take tests. They prepared you for standardized tests and feeling like an awkward teenager. And that's it. So when you get into college, nobody teaches you, like, college is like living on a sitcom because you're constantly just like, your friends are around, everybody lives near each other, the door's always open, everybody's going through the same stuff. And then all of a sudden we grow up and we're out on our own. We aren't near our friends. We aren't surrounded by the same people. Even if you have roommates, there isn't an RA or parent or somebody to complain to if you're having roommate issues. Like, there's no fail safe. There's no net to catch you like there was in college. But there's also a completely different set of circumstances. Like, when you were in college, you had classes, but then you also had an insane amount of free time. You had an insane system surrounding you of friends who are all going through the same stuff. Everybody was experiencing all the same stuff at the same time. And then you have this financial access because likely your parents were paying for part of it, or if not all of it. You are living in dorms, so you don't have to pay a monthly rent or utilities and all of that stuff. Like, slowly you learn things, but really you're just thrown out of the nest when you graduate. And all the stuff that I learned in college wasn't what was applicable to real life. What was applicable to real life is really that first year. Like, that first year out of college where you fall flat on your face, that's the lesson that is so much more valuable than the cute little sitcom you lived in college.
It goes from Friends to Law and Order real quick.
Yeah.
You're out of college.
Yeah. As long as it never gets to CSI, you're fine.
Yeah, that is, oh my God. I have one more question, and it might be like it might be a one-word answer, but I just want to ask, who do you most hope that this book will reach?
I want it to be for the generation below us. So the reason I made it is we're in our late 20s, early 30s. We've got a good foundation now because we learned it through trial and error and struggling and now talking to each other. I want the generation below us to not have to do all of the work we had to do. And our parents, as full intent that they had to teach us everything, they really did try. I think our parents really tried to give us the life lessons, but their life lessons were different than ours. They didn't have a recession. They didn't have a pandemic. They didn't have all the things we had. And our parents were like, hey, like you're going to grow up, you're going to get a job every year. They're just going to throw more money at you. They're going to give you matching 401ks. They're going to give you relocation packages and pensions and all these things that don't exist anymore. And then, you'll meet somebody, you'll settle down, you'll get a house, you'll have all these kids. And like, that is not what our generation is doing. And we can't buy a house because the generation above us really fucked us out of that. So like we can't invest in the way that they did. And we can't do all of the things that they did in the way that they did it. So the lessons, with as much good intent as they have, aren't applicable to our lives. So what I wanted was to write a book that is applicable to our lives, that is for the cell phone generation, the app generation, the kids that just grew up trying to figure it out on the internet. And our parents were the generation where you didn't know something, they were like, go to the library and look it up. And that's not helpful.
That's not how any of that works in 2021.
No.
Oh my God.
No, we needed a different set of life lessons, different manual. So I wrote one.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Like, it's so easy to compare yourself to your parents. Like when my parents were my age, they were married and had already like owned more than one house and had a decent, were able to achieve all of these things because the economics of our country were completely different. Than what they are now. Like they're like, well, why can't you just get married? Like weddings aren't that expensive, and it's just
weddings are insanely expensive, but their generation didn't have Pinterest that told us that they should be.
Right.
They went to 3 weddings and they were like, oh, okay, this is what a wedding should be. I'll just make one of these. And they didn't have to, like, gender reveal parties and things weren't a thing when they were kids, because that was a social media invention. It wasn't something that existed for them. But the big one that I tell people all the time is your parents probably held jobs a lot longer than we do. But that's because there were like 7 companies and they gave raises on a regular basis, where our generation leaves jobs far more frequently. And it's the only way in a lot of cases to get a promotion or to get a raise. And I see it happen a lot. People will stay in jobs in our generation for longer than they should because they think that they're supposed to. The generation above them held jobs for 20, 30, 40 years. And we're like, this job sucks. After 2 or 3 years, I want to leave. And you're staying in something that makes you unhappy for longer because you think you're supposed to. Look at Jackie being like, yeah, that's me.
I'm struggling with that a lot right now.
And it's probably like your parents are like, no, you want your resume to reflect loyalty to a company and you want to show experience. And all of that is probably true when you're 40. At our generation, it isn't, because so many companies and startups and things are popping up every day. Companies are folding in an economy that's super unpredictable. It is more reasonable that you left a company for reasons that were beyond your control. But even if you left because you were unhappy, it's regulated. It's the norm now. And that's what happens sometimes when you need a promotion, when you need a pay raise, when you need a new environment. If you're unhappy with a giant corporate culture, there are so many startups and so many smaller companies out there. If you want to work remotely, that's an option now. If there's so many options that the generation above didn't have, and they think we should stick in something that we're unhappy with because they did. And I'm like, just because you did it doesn't mean we have to.
Right. Right. My dad would always say that, it's called working for a living. And I just want to ask him, but are you happy? Like,
do you like your living? Do you like living your life? Yeah. You're working for a living, but what about living for a living? Are you living for a living in a way that you like?
Ooh,
someone
quotes.
Cross-stitch that.
Yeah, put that on a t-shirt.
I love that. Well, as we are wrapping up, at the end of every episode, me and Jackie like to talk about what we did for self-care for this week. So we would love to include you.
Okay.
We'll go first to help give you some time to think and maybe give you an ideas. But so what I did for myself this week was I do it every week, but I've gotten into the habit of painting my nails like 2 to 3 times a week. It's just, I started doing it more often during the pandemic because couldn't go to the salon. And then I found that I actually genuinely enjoy doing it just helping me like calm down. And it's just fun. And I did my nails black for the first time, and I'm loving it. I love being a basic bitch that wears pink but has black nail polish. I love it.
I love that.
My self-care this week was arguably, I feel a little silly admitting it, but I had something of a bad brain week. I'm pretty stressed out right now in my life because Natasha, ADHD club. So I'm getting my ADHD officially diagnosed so that I can go on medication. And I had to do all of this crazy, I don't know if you've ever had to do this, but I had to do all this crazy testing, all of this like neuropsych evaluation stuff. And the whole time I'm just sitting here screaming like, please give me the Adderall. I literally can't focus and do my job. And now I'm waiting on the results and like still on no meds, still struggling with my very, very granule database job. So like this whole week I'm like, I'm just gonna let myself be a lug and I'm not gonna get mad at myself for it.
Can I give you like 2 or 3 little things you can try before any medication is prescribed or kicks in?
I've done a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, but yes, tell us for the audience if in case.
I'm sure you have, and I did the same thing. But the things that work for me, and that like this is such ADD is something that is different in every person. Mm-hmm. But for me, my brain starts feeling really static and really I cannot concentrate if things are too much the same. Mm-hmm. So I go for a walk for 20 minutes down a street I've never been on before, and then I come back and my brain's ready to refocus. Or I will sit outside with no distractions, no phone, no nothing, and I will just sit and stare at one spot, like on a wall across the street or something for a few minutes, and I will just let my brain think all the things that are clogging it up, like the things that are just stuck in the pathways to get me to focus, because obviously my brain is trying to focus on 7 different things. So if I can just think like 2 or 3 of them and get them out of the way, then it's like the traffic is a little bit clearer. Mm-hmm. So it helps a little bit. But yeah, I know that like even when you start medication for ADHD, it does take a little bit of a while to like kick in and actually affect your system. So those are just a few things that have helped me. I don't know if they'll work for you, but
no, I love going on walks actually. That's if I'm feeling very overwhelmed, like I'll take like a walk on my lunch break or whatever, and that actually is helpful. I like it. For me personally, I have like discovered at this point that like medication is the next thing to try. But
definitely try it.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, I'm not on any. So this week I was just like, I'm not gonna get mad at myself for being a lug, and that was my self-care.
I love that. Yeah. I would say for me, I had a weird week because I moved and I released a book. So it's been very overwhelming.
Oh, you moved. And you can tell you've got like a whole bookshelf behind you set up.
Yeah. I actually set things up pretty quickly when I moved, but especially in the office because I was like, I'm doing a lot of podcasts and interviews. Can't just have boxes behind me. But there was a few things this week. I'd start each morning with 5 to 10 minutes sitting outside for just a couple of minutes with coffee and not a phone, and just sit and like pet my dog and just relax and listen to birds. That has been really nice. I have a lot of anxiety in the morning, just calming anxiety for a few minutes. And then there was a thought that I had when you guys were talking. I had this thought. I was downloading a file yesterday and I was watching it download because I had been doing so many things. I'm still working a full-time job, releasing a book, doing all these things at once that I was just going. And this file was taking like 8 minutes to download, and I just watched it. I just watched the little bar go across the screen as it downloaded, and it was like so meditative and therapeutic to watch something download that I was like, people should try this. Like, I don't know why. This definitely just works.
Cutting edge.
Me down. That's so funny that's relaxing because I just get angry. I'm like, faster! I was getting angry at the beginning of it. I was so upset because I was like, you're only a gigabyte. Why are you taking so long? And then I was like, I have fast internet. I pay for this. Why is it not working? And I had to calm myself into the fact that I can't control how fast the internet goes. I can't control if my computer is slow, and it's bogging down the computer, so I can't do anything else. And I just have to wait. I can't do anything until it downloads. So just surrendering to it was like really nice at the end. I went through a lot of emotions in those few minutes, but
Yeah,
of
you
the
start
emotional
really
roller coaster of the download. I love
Next
that.
book.
for sure.
No,
Yeah,
that's
it.
you
Next
start
book. Just
so
let it load.
frustrated.
Let
Yeah.
it load. I love it. Well, go ahead and where can people find you? What would you
Yes,
like to
plug
pitch
all
for
of the
our
things.
audience? Plug all of
the
the things.
Okay, so it's Shit Adults Never Taught Us. It is paperback and ebook on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, Google Play Books. I'm on Instagram at Shit Adults Never Taught Us. You can also find me personally at Natsat Travels. And yeah, you can also email shitadultsnevertaughtus@gmail.com anytime. I'm always down to talk to people.
Highly recommend it personally.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Seriously,
you so much.
thank you for joining us and sharing, and love your book. I can't wait to recommend it to more of my friends, because
No, I
a lot of them
definitely
could
will
use
be.
this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, no, this is like actually legitimately useful. Like, I need to recommend this to people.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. That's the whole point. I really just want friends to share it, pass it around. Like, if you find your friend is struggling with something, share the book and be like, here you go. You need to get your security deposit back? Here's a chapter on it.
All right.
Amazing. All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Natasha. And, Julia, I just want everybody to stay safe.
Stay sane.
And same time next week. Do-do-do.